Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to talk about an experiment that sparked intense controversy in the field of psychology and fundamentally changed the way psychology and psychiatry are understood. A study titled Being Sane in Insane Places shattered many ideas that had long been accepted without question. After this research, many things once considered certain about mental health were no longer seen the same way. Known in history as the Rosenhan Experiment, this striking study was conducted by psychologist David Rosenhan, and it is still regarded as one of the most disturbing experiments in the field. Rosenhan's core question was actually quite simple yet extremely dangerous. How reliable is a diagnosis of mental illness? In other words, can we truly distinguish mental illness from mental health? According to Rosenhan, there was a serious flaw at the heart of the system. Diagnostic criteria were not scientifically solid. This meant that even healthy individuals could be labeled as mentally ill. To prove this, he designed an experiment that would go down in history. As part of the experiment, 8 people applied to various psychiatric hospitals. All of them made the same claim. They said they were hearing voices. The group included 3 psychologists, 1 pediatrician, 1 psychiatrist, 1 artist, and 1 housewife. Rosenhan himself was also among them. Here's a crucial detail. None of these people were actually hearing voices. Aside from this initial claim, they didn't tell a single lie. Once admitted to the hospital, they behaved completely normally. This was the key point of the experiment, and this is where things began to get strange. All 8 individuals were admitted to psychiatric hospitals on the grounds that they were mentally ill, even though they told doctors from the very first day that they were no longer hearing voices and that they felt fine. None of them were discharged immediately. Rosenhan did not reveal that this was an experiment. He wanted to see where the process would lead. Eventually, they were all released, but the length of their stays was alarming. The shortest stay was 7 days, while the longest lasted a full 52 days. Think about that. A person with no mental illness was kept in a psychiatric hospital for nearly 2 months and treated with heavy medication and intensive therapy. Moreover, in order to be discharged, they were eventually expected to accept that they were ill. But the experiment didn't end there. These 8 individuals were given official psychiatric diagnoses, not mild anxiety disorders. As a result, doctors diagnosed 7 of them with schizophrenia and 1 with manic depressive disorder. People with no actual mental health issues suddenly had to live with labels of severe mental illness. Even when they were discharged, doctors were not fully convinced. Rather than acknowledging that the patients had recovered, they released them under the label of being in remission, meaning the illness was supposedly dormant. From this, Rosenhan drew a very clear conclusion. In this system, once you are labeled as mentally ill, it is almost never fully accepted that you are completely healthy again. Think about a cancer patient. When they recover, people say, "Congratulations, you're cured." But with mental illness, that same clarity rarely exists. The system continues to see the individual as a potential patient. When Rosenhan published his findings, chaos erupted. Some accused him of deceiving the system and acting unethically. But the backlash didn't stop there. Psychiatric clinics across the country challenged Rosenhan directly. They said, "We can spot fake patients. You can't fool us." One hospital even asked Rosenhan to send fake patients without telling them in advance, claiming they would identify them immediately. Rosenhan accepted the challenge. Over a 3-month period, out of 193 patients admitted to that hospital, 41 were suspected of being imposters, and 19 were declared with certainty to be completely healthy. Then, Rosenhan dropped the bombshell. He hadn't sent a single fake patient to that hospital. In other words, those 19 people who were labeled healthy were, in fact, genuinely ill. After that, no one could object. Rosenhan asked a simple but devastating question. If we can't distinguish the sane from the insane, how can we trust the decisions we make? No one could answer. But perhaps the most striking detail of the experiment emerged later. These fake patients stayed in the same wards as real patients. And interestingly, the real psychiatric patients noticed that they were fake. Out of 188 patients, 35 directly said to them, "You're not crazy, you're a journalist or a doctor. You're observing us." So, while trained professionals couldn't tell the difference, the patients themselves could see the truth. The impact of the Rosenhan experiment was enormous. After the study was published, the American Psychiatric Association completely revised its diagnostic manual. Major reforms were implemented in psychiatric hospitals. The belief that once mentally ill, never fully recovered began to be seriously questioned. If healthy people can be labeled as ill so easily, how many people have had to live their lives with incorrect diagnoses? Once you give someone such a label, every behavior they show is interpreted through that lens. Society, family, and friends all start treating them accordingly, and the person may end up living with an illness they never actually had. Think about this. How would you feel if you were diagnosed with cancer despite having nothing wrong, and were expected to believe it? See you in the next one. Subscribe.